Please welcome Katie Elhoffer.
Hi. Yay. Hi.
Oh, happy to have you on our podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to help us.
Oh, gee, no worries.
Chat with us. Huge fan of your stuff, and your business, casual, geek-bound clothing gives me life in the office, so thank you.
You're amazingly sweet. That's very kind. I just like making clothes.
You're so good at it. Okay, Stephanie, why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay. So let's see. I think why don't we start off with kind of what your inspiration is when you're making clothes. So I want to know what you take into consideration when you're designing something based off of a character. Like, do you just take into consideration their colors and their symbol, or do you look at their personality, history, powers? Like, what goes into that in your design process?
It's a little bit of everything. So, I think a good example is Spider-Gwen. I feel like she's a very she's a very feminine character. She has hot pink and hot blue on her costume. Mm-hmm. And so doing it as a dress, I would want to make sure that the dress isn't weak. It needs to, in my mind, she needs to have a big hood, and she needs to be very girly girl with the look of it. So my dress that's inspired by her has big bell sleeves, and it has a very full skirt, and is made out of a very plush fabric. It's stuff that I feel she would wear this. Mm-hmm. If she had to do if she had to be, I don't want to say undercover Spider-Gwen because it's still very obviously Spider-Gwen, but she had to do go to a formal, not a formal event, but a semi-formal event as Spider-Gwen, she'd be wearing that rather than her bodysuit. So I kind of put myself in how would the character dress if they were in this different circumstance and they wanted to keep their look. For my Finn-inspired cardigan, I kind of saw it as what would Finn wear if Finn was a girl. So because it would be similar to the jacket, but didn't want to wear a leather jacket. So if Finn was a girl and had to go to the office, what would she wear? Not that girls can't wear awesome leather jackets. They're awesome for a reason. But I take it as what would the character possibly wear? And then also, and so I would love to make a crop their jacket. That'd be adorable. And then my Finn cardigan was kind of or my bromance cardigan was what if Finn was a girl and had a librarian job? Librarians can totally have leather coats. That's awesome. But what about if it was a little more subtle? Mm-hmm. And then it's also a bit of what are my resources? Doing a full leather jacket is super expensive, requires a lot of development time, and just takes a lot of time in general. And since all my stuff is made locally in Los Angeles, and leather jackets tend to be very expensive in labor and supplies, do I really want to make a $300 coat, or do I want to make a $50 cardigan? So
right,
I kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, as cool as that would be, and I'm sure people would buy it, I think I would sell a lot fewer of a $300 jacket than I would a $50 sweater. So I mix the two. I've been doing a lot of sweaters recently because I'm working with a really fantastic sweater company or sweater factory in Los Angeles that is knocking it out of the park with quality and with my style. And they're doing such crazy, awesome stuff for me that I'm it's kind of where my design is heading towards. I love doing my cut and sew, which is my dresses, and I'm doing plenty of that. But sweaters are so easy, and they're so fun, and they're so different that I also try to make sure that I'm not doing something that everyone else is doing. There were certainly companies that came out with Finn jackets that were licensed or unlicensed, doesn't matter. And so I was I don't need to do that. I don't need to do the leather jacket. That's been done by everyone else, and people have done just canvas jackets versions of it. And I'm what's another way to take this character? And I see it with everything I'm doing. How else can I design? What else can I design for that character that hasn't been done? Or if it has been done, do it better than it's been done. Because
certainly like the quality at Hot Topic is pretty low. And so it's like, Hot Topic's done something, but it's all screen print.
Yeah, and it lasts for like 2 washes, and then you're right back to having it.
And
Right.
I really saw that with your Black Widow poncho, I believe it was. I thought that was really cool.
Thank you. That was honestly just an act. I take influence from everything around me. And for that one, I was at Target back in my hometown of St. Louis for the winter, and we rushed to Target because I had packed clothes that were my LA clothes. So it was all very like lightweight, and like I have very few coats now because it doesn't really get that cold here. And so we rushed to Target as soon as we landed, and I was buying like every sweater that I could find. So I'm just like, I am freezing. I need everything. And I grabbed a poncho that and my husband pointed out because it was on the mannequin, and I just grabbed it because I was like, I love these colors. It was like rust and black. And I was like, these colors are everything. And I grabbed it. My husband's like, that's Black Widow, right? And I was like, no. And I looked at the poncho and I was like, oh my God, it's an hourglass. It's a Black Widow symbol. They don't know they're doing it. But what if this was in like crimson red and black is the accent color? And so I bought it because I was going to wear it. I took it to my factory and I was like, can you duplicate this, but do it in these colors? And they were like, yeah, totally. So they came out with this beautiful sweater. They changed it slightly and made it even better. And I was just like, this is Black Widow. This is what I've been wanting in the wintertime. And I saw it as like, what would Natasha wear if she was like walking around New York in, December? I'm ridiculous.
Well, I thought it was really cool. I would never thought of putting Black Widow in a poncho.
Yeah, well, it's the Black Widow symbol is so simple, and I can't believe, even though I've worked for these companies, that more things haven't been done with Black Widow symbol, because it's so simple and it's so like timeless and classic and elegant and all these things. I'm just like, you could be doing so many pieces with just the Black Widow symbol, like subtly on things.
Oh yeah, I have a dress that's that dress that has like the fake figure on the front more or less, and then the white paneling on the side, and the black in the front is hourglass, and then it's got red on the edge, and I'm like, that's my Black Widow dress actually. That's what that is.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful symbol, and it baffles me. Not really. I haven't seen the inside of how everything's done. I'm like, I'm not shocked that there's not more of her, but it's still frustrating.
Yeah, I think that it would be really marketable, especially with how popular Scarlett Johansson has made Black Widow. I think a lot of women would like more than, like the leather catsuit thing.
Yeah, the leather catsuit isn't easy to incorporate into everyday wear.
Yeah,
not. You gotta be a certain type of person to pull that off.
Yes.
And work at a certain kind of place.
Yep.
I can't imagine walking in a leather catsuit is going to get you a lot of work unless you do a certain type of work.
So I know about this, but can you tell us a little bit about your education? Because you majored in costume design and business, correct?
Yeah, I did. So I went to Washington University in St. Louis, which has to be prefaced because otherwise the people are like, oh, Washington State. I'm like, no. It was a private college in St. Louis, Missouri. And I had always wanted to go there when I was a kid, just because we would drive by it on the way to the zoo. And I was like, that place is really cool. And it's really pretty. It's like a faux Ivy League style like look. And so when I applied and got in, I was super excited. And I went there wanting to do history because I really wanted to have a history degree for something.
Yay, history degrees.
History. I am fascinated by history. Like it's so crazy.
It was so fun to study. You have no idea. Like I've given speeches on my essays I've written about Disney during World War II, and people are like, oh, that's very well studied and academic. I'm like, I watched cartoons for 6 hours, but thank you.
But thanks. That's my essay. I wrote in my Intro to Western Civilization class my first year, the end of the class, you had to write your own essay on any subject, but you have to talk to your TA first to get approval. And so I said I wanted to research or write about, I think it was my first year I took it. I wanted to write about the Spanish flu, the flu of 1918 or 1917, and specifically how it hit St. Louis, because it's something that I had learned very quickly in high school in my AP history class. My teacher touched on there was this crazy flu that went around that killed more people than World War I did, and no one knows about it. No one talks about it, and it took young, healthy people. It didn't kill, it still killed the young and the old, but it mostly took healthy 20-year-olds. That's nuts. And so I told my TA I wanted to write an essay about it, and he was like, what are you talking about? And I'm talking to like the TA in this class. He was like a 29-year-old, like, probably 30s man who had been studying history for a very long time because he was a graduate student. And he had no idea what I was talking about. And I'm like, okay, I have to write something on this. This is nuts. Like, no one knows about this thing that happened. And so I went to like every single library in the city, pulled research from pulled everything that like the surgeon, I don't want to say like the Surgeon General, but like the head doctor in the city had done, and how they worked with the mayor, because St. Louis actually had like the least amount of deaths per capita than any other city in the country, because St. Louis shut down all the metro and trains and everything. Whenever there was an outbreak, they just refused to let anyone go anywhere because they were like, nope, that's how it spreads. While everyone else allowed everything else to stay open. And so it spread a lot faster in New York and in San Francisco and whatever. Anyways, obviously I'm fascinated by it because I can still talk about it like 10 years later. But finding out all that information and delving into it really like fascinates me. And so
Yeah, no, by the time my senior thesis was done, it looked like a beautiful mind had happened on the wall of my kitchen. Like there were sticky notes for like feet.
And see, I'm super, so I changed my major. My parents wouldn't let me get a history degree, and they were helping finance my college because we had an agreement, because I always had like top grades and I was always top of my class. They were like, we'll pay for your college if you maintain your A's. Because I had friends that would like get paid for A's, like they'd get like $100 per A, and I'm like, how come I'm not pulling in like $1,000 each semester? In high school,
I make so much money.
I know. I'm like, I could make bank at this. I naturally get A's because I do my homework and read the things. And they're like, you're not getting paid because we're going to cover your college. And I was like, oh, okay. So I picked like the most expensive college to go to, kind of like as a big, like, middle finger to them of like, okay, well, I wanted the money then, but fine. But they had some say, they're like, we're not going to pay for a history degree. My dad is an accountant. So he was like, I'm not paying for that. That's useless. And I'm like, okay, it's not. Like 50% of the top of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies have history degrees, because your undergraduate really means nothing. It's your graduate that matters, but okay. Whatever. So then as like a middle finger, I was like, fine, I'm going to go to the costume department. I'm going to go into the theater department and get it's technically a technical theater degree with an emphasis in costume design, because that's all the classes that I took. And then part of that agreement, like part of that negotiation was, you can get your costume design degree, but you also have to go into the business school and get a business degree. And so I got the easiest business degree you can get, which is a marketing degree, because all marketing is BS. It's how do you keep people in your stores? Oh, it turns out if you play really nice music, they'll like shop longer.
Yeah, I switched from marketing to PR for a lot of those reasons.
Yeah.
I was like, really, just get rid of the marketing and do it all in the PR department and you'll be a lot better off.
Yeah, I wish we had a PR department. Marketing was kind of lumped in together, but like it's just like, it turns out if you smile at your customers, they get happy. Like they feel like you care about them, and it's like, wow, that's amazing. I would never think to be nice to people in order to get money from them. That's shocking. So I'm being very facetious right now, but yeah, so I got those 2 degrees, and the costume design degree, I'm super glad I got, because I actually really hate writing essays. And turns out when you get a like sewing focused degree, you really just have to be able to prove that you can sew in order to get it, which is what I did very well. So I didn't have to write any like massive essays after like my second year of college, which, I love writing essays, but also I really hate writing essays. So
if it's not something you don't want to write about, it's absolute torture.
It is, yeah. And like I was always able to like twist it as something that I liked, but by your sophomore, junior year, you're kind of writing what they say you need to write, because they need to know that you actually know how to do what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I was like, oh, I don't need to take that class anymore. Like the closest I came to was like I had to take some theater classes of like writing about plays, and turns out that's also a bunch of BS, because you can just BS your way through it. Like I was like, I am so good at faking that I read this play that I did not read because I don't like reading plays. Like, yay! So
that's great.
I'm ridiculous. I am a terrible advocate for education, even though education is everything. I'm super glad that I got my degree that I got. I didn't realize until much later how important that degree was to like my profession and to everything I'm doing. So sorry.
I feel like that's how it is with a lot of degrees.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely like mocked it for the first few years after graduation. I'm like, there's nothing like I obviously I used my degree right away. I moved to LA and started pursuing costume design, but I'm like, there's no reason to have gone to college for this. I don't need a degree for this thing. And now I'm like, oh, I learned so much in school that I did not know that I'm constantly accessing. Uh-huh. So that's
It sneaks
good.
in there. It's so sneaky.
Yeah. It's very pervasive. It does not, you don't realize that it's sneaking in until it's all the way in your brain.
And
So
it doesn't even matter what you're doing. You might not even
yeah.
be like using your degree, but you're totally using your degree.
Yeah. And I'm still referencing when I was in college or in high school, I did DECA, which is like a marketing fraternity. I was a part of it and I competed, and I competed in the e-commerce division. And I realize now how important that was, because even though e-commerce was very new, this is like the early 2000s, e-commerce was very, very new. Amazon hadn't even like really started, or maybe it had just started, but it's not the Amazon we know today. I was studying all of that and like constantly bringing in like, okay, well, for e-commerce, here's how you want to be able to really set up a website and a web store and all these things. And while I could not possibly tell you what I wrote about to get me to national competition level stuff, I know that I got to those levels and I was taken seriously. So I'm like, either I'm really good at BSing everything, which I am, or I'm really good at marketing, which I don't think I am. So I must be one of those two things. Like, so I worked my way up in that organization, and I completely forgot about it when I was in college because it wasn't important to me then. But now I'm like, oh yeah, all of that kind of built the foundations for what I am doing today and how I am today, which is really awesome.
That's awesome.
That is very cool.
Especially running your own business.
Yeah.
And you're selling your own product, a product you believe in. Like that's so nice. That's like the American dream.
It is. And I'm also super lucky because, like, I mean, who is going to possibly pay to get a freaking sewing degree? That's crazy. And my parents definitely, my dad didn't believe in it at the time. And now he's like, oh, I get it. I see what you were doing. And I was like, yeah, I totally had this plan the whole time.
So
yep,
going off of that, how did you start designing in like the geek chic type of world?
It was a complete accident. I was working with Nerdist Industries a lot on their videos they make. They made parody content and geek news content and stuff around geek pop culture. And I'd been working with them so much, and because I was already a big geek, they asked me to do some like Game of Thrones stuff, and I was working with another production company on some Game of Thrones stuff as well. And as I'm working on it, I'm like, well, I love this show. Like Danny's look is very simple. It's just like this cross your heart neckline thing. I was like, let me just make like my own version of a tunic with her, because I found some cool fabric in downtown LA. So I whipped that up alongside some other pieces. I wore that piece on set, and I kept wearing this piece, like it's this tunic that I love. And I would get compliments everywhere I go. And I was at Universal, or not Universal. No, I was at Universal. Or maybe Warner Brothers, one of the costume houses. I was doing a pull, like where I would go back and pick out all the costumes and shoes and all the accessories. And I was renting it. And at the checkout counter, the woman was like, you may not know what I'm talking about, but you look just like Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. And I was like, you don't understand. That's exactly what I was going for. And so it became this empowering thing that when I would put this piece on, and I had like little dragon teeth necklaces to wear with it, or like a dragon cuff, like I would totally pair it up and style it. And I would always wear like my big brown boots with it, with like black leggings. Like it was my uniform almost for the day when I would go onto a new set where I didn't know if I could trust, like if I knew anyone or if people would actually believe that I knew what I was talking about. Because I also was a very young costume designer. Most costume designers seem to be in their late 20s, early 30s, if not their like 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. And I was like 23 starting out. Like I just graduated, and I was like, let me move to LA. And so I really needed to like feel empowered, because nobody was going to empower me without my own belief in myself. So I wore this piece everywhere. I still have it in my closet, even though I think I got too fat for it. So I haven't put it on in a while, but I would wear it everywhere. And so when I was working with Nerdist, one of the times, like they mentioned, I was working on a TV show pitch to them of like, let me do like a geek fashion show where I can make stuff. Cause they had commented on this top and on a couple other pieces I'd made of like, you're really quick with this. Like you make great stuff. And I was like, yeah, let's do a show around it. Like, whereas people can come in and request, an everyday piece, or if they're doing a wedding, or if they're doing, a prom, like if they want to be an Elsa for prom, but they don't want to wear the cosplay. Like what's a way to do it every day that you don't look obnoxiously like Elsa, but also, that you're Elsa. So I was working on that pitch, and they were like, well, let's bring in this girl, Ashley Eckstein, because she has a geek fashion company. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So I looked into her universe, and I was like, oh, they have licenses. That's freaking rad. So I sat with her, and she looked over my sketchbook, and she was like, you should like come work for my company. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. I'm a costume designer. I moved out to LA to do costume design, not fashion design. So I don't want to, like, I wanted to kind of do this. I would do it freelance, but it's not my calling. And so she was totally fine with that. And she let me do her gown for the first fashion show at Comic-Con that she hosted. And then I kind of freelanced for a company a bit. And then my dog goes, this is horrible. My dog was hit by a car. And
Oh no.
she's totally fine. She's a tank. Like her hip moved up her lung. Yeah, Sakura. And so we needed to get surgery done on her, and it was going to be like $3,000. And like my husband and I were both just like, oh my god, oh my god. Like he makes okay money, I was making okay money, but nothing to where it's like, oh yeah, we can totally afford that, no problem. And so Ashley had been telling me that they really wanted to bring me into their company, into her universe, and I was like, at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm in. What do you want? Like, can I interview? What do you want? And so they interviewed me, and they kind of like played around with me for a month and a half, and they were just like, yeah, we really want you, but we haven't confirmed it yet. And yeah, you're a shoo-in, you're in. And then they called me and they were like, we're sorry, we went in a different direction. And I was like, what do you mean you went in a different direction? Like, you said you wanted me. And it's the first time that I'd really experienced like betrayal, because I'm a very open and honest person. And so I expect everyone else to be open and honest with me. And if they don't want me, all they have to do is say like, we don't want you, and I'll move on. But for them to say, we want you, you're in, and then say, actually, no, haha, sorry, like destroyed me. And actually that same day they said no to me, I got a call from a rep that was a scout for Mighty Fine / We Love Fine. And they were like, yeah, a friend of yours recommended we talk to you, and they need a designer, and we went to your website, and your stuff's amazing. And what'll it be? Like, what do you want? And what's your salary? What do you want? And I was like, oh, okay. The universe wants me to go in this direction, because I kind of was like half in, and like in my interview with Ashley, she had asked me, would you be willing to leave the costume design world? And I was like, yeah, because something's pulling me in this direction, and I don't fight the universe. Like, I don't fight the river, the current. Like, if it's saying go this direction and all the signs are showing me to go to that direction, I'll go that direction. And so when they turned me down and I got accepted by Mighty Fine and I interviewed and they were like 100% on board with me, I went and got a full-time job in the geek fashion world. And I would still get calls from my producers that I worked with, because I didn't really tell people that I had left costume design, because I was like, well, if something big comes along, I'll certainly call out sick for a few days, like no big deal. And if a few things came along, I worked with Will Ferrell while I was still at Mighty Fine. I called out sick for like 2 days to go work with Will Ferrell on a baseball documentary, which was really awesome.
That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, and he's amazing. But other than that, like I pretty much put all my set work behind me, because I don't really enjoy working 12-hour days on movie sets in the same way that other people do. And the pay, I reached a point in my costume design career where my pay was really great. Like, I was making $500 a day doing costume design, which was fantastic pay for an independent person. But I really wanted to get into the union to get more pay, and I don't know if I had gotten to that point yet, because the union rules are different depending on if you work on indie films or web series or whatever. So rather than dive into that head first, I was like, let me just take a step back and do this thing that the universe is telling me to do. So then I worked at We Love Fine for just under a year before they fired me. And then I decided to start my own company, because I had learned so much from working for all these companies. And it was so infuriating, because I would show them what I believe to be very fantastic designs. And I'm, of course, very biased. I think my stuff is great, as I should. It turns out no one else is going to think your stuff is great unless you do. And so they would turn it down. They'd be like, oh, it's too subtle, or it's too fashionable was the best one that I would get. And I'm like, how in the world can fashion be too fashionable? Okay. And so I was just like, well, I'm going to do this stuff, because and a lot of the response I would get from my bosses was, it's not like in universe enough, or it's not like why are we paying for a license if this is too subtle? Like, we need it to be in your face with the design, because we need people to know it's Star Wars. And I'd be like, well, it's Princess Leia's look. It's not really, you don't need to throw a rebel symbol on it. And they'd be like, no, but you need to put the rebel symbol on it. And so I was just constantly fighting like the trash fashion of, it needs to look like the character from, 20 feet away when it's on the wall at Hot Topic. And I'm like, but that's not enough for me. Like, I'm an adult. I can see what the character is, because it's the colors of the character.
Yeah, you were trying to design for like an older target group than the companies.
Yes, and that was the biggest problem that I had at Mighty Fine. I had they normally have a fit model that's like a junior size, which is the problem that all adults have in buying clothes at Hot Topic and stores like that, is that it's all juniors. It's all.
Oh yeah. I did fit modeling at one point, and I was insanely small back then. And that was exactly it. They were marketing these to women. I was like, I am a size 2. Like that is not what the size a normal human woman is.
Yeah, and there definitely are. I have plenty of friends that are super tiny, but there's also plenty of women that have hips and have boobs and have curves that are not being accommodated. So when I stepped in.
Thank you for accommodating us.
well, I'm an XL. Like I'm XL and I'm also 5'2". So like there's very little designed and made for me.
Yeah.
So I was seeing it as I have no desire to design stuff for other people. I want to design for myself because I want to be able to wear the clothes that I design and make. So it was totally selfish, and it works out in my favor because it turns out there's a bunch of other women like me. So yay. But so when I stepped in, I had no knowledge of fashion design or of apparel production. I had zero knowledge of it because all I did at her universe, I would sketch something out, send it over to them, and then that was it. With the exception of one point, I made like a sample for them, and it was totally messed up because I kept telling them it needed to be one fabric, and they were like, no, it needs to be another. And then once I gave them the sample, they're like, oh, turns out you were right. And I was like, yeah, I know.
That's why I did that.
That's why I said to do it this other way, and you didn't listen to me. So I knew that like one product how to do, but so I stepped in and I was like in my like first week of meetings with everyone that I was going to be working with, I basically was science cat of like, I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I would just like doodle in my notebook and pretend to take notes. And like when people would say things like, well, we need to know what the MOQ was going to be on that, I would write in my journal thing like, find out what MOQ means.
Google MOQ later.
Google MOQ, or I'd be on my phone and I would just Google it right then and be like, minimum order quantity. Okay, that makes sense. Like, so I would my first like journal that I would have with them was just a bunch of things of like, what is MOQ? What is FOB? What is LDP? Like, I just had a list of like questioning because I didn't want to ask it in front of everyone and sound stupid. Or not
like
stupid.
A trial by fire type thing.
It very much was. It very much was. And so in the first meeting with my pattern team, they said, we normally take care of getting the fit model for you. And I was like, okay, well, who's the fit model? And they showed me like the specs of the person. And I was like, well, like, I don't want to be rude, but that's not a real person. Like, that sounds like a 16-year-old kid, not an adult woman. And they're like, yeah, well, that's what we make clothes for. And I was like, no. That's what Mighty Fine, the parent company, makes clothes for because they're selling to Forever 21 and Hot Topic and Macy's, Juniors, and all these other places. I'm working for We Love Fine, which is the online division. It's different and it's allowed to be different. So with that in mind, I want to do stuff for an adult woman. So I told them the specs that I wanted for my medium of just like a curvy medium. And they found a girl that was in the office that she was a 35-year-old Latina woman that had 2 kids. And so she had boobs, she had hips, she had like, she also was super fit. So she had like a really great hourglass. And I was like, yes, that's what I want. And so up until the day they fired me, which was 11 months and like 2 days, the pattern room still, when they would do my first pattern, they'd put it on her. They'd be like, well, Maria has a booty. That's why it doesn't fit her right. And I'd be like, I know Maria has a booty. Make it fit her booty because my customers have booties. Like I would be finding literally until the day they fired me. I was still being like, I understand that she has a different body shape than what you're used to. Freaking work with it. Like,
no, when I did fit modeling, I was 17. And it was definitely for women's clothing. And I was like, well, I'm cashing a paycheck, so...
Yeah, you're not gonna complain then, but like now,
no, heck no.
now, like that's the standard. Like, and it's, to me, it's abhorrent as a fashion company if you want to take yourself seriously that you're not designing clothes for the people that are actually buying your clothes. Like, if you're, a size 2 fit model is great, but how many? Like, what's your ratio of sizes? Are you actually selling more 6 and 8s? Then you should probably make for the 6 and 8s first.
Yeah, exactly. Probably start with those national averages and work your way out from there. Like
exactly. And so it was this constant battle with them. They never understood anything. And I mean, I fought for pockets, which was the stupidest fight ever.
Oh, like, pockets. Stephanie, just so you know, every dress or skirt I've bought from this woman has pockets.
Oh, that's amazing.
Amazing.
I can't seem to buy anything with pockets because I really like form-fitting, like pencil skirts and stuff.
Yeah.
But I've got these hips, so if I get pockets, they just like, they do the thing where they just like make a D shape and ugh.
Yeah. With form fitted things, you can't do, at least you can't do side seam pockets. You have to do like those front patch pocket
Oh,
things.
I know, but you can't find
And that.
front patch pockets for my
It's
size. It's just stupid. Where am I
They're also-
supposed to put my phone?
Yeah, but it's form fitted with the patch pockets. It never looks quite right. Like you need to really design it. And so I've only designed one mass produced thing that's a bodycon dress because they're less in, like, people don't buy them as willingly because not everyone wants body hugging. And I'm like, I get that. But also every now and then I'm super curvy. Every now and then I like it. Like, it's not like my go-to, but I'm not against it. But for my flared skirts, like I put them in anything with a flared skirt. And at Mighty Fine, they fought me over 50 cents of price difference because it cost 50 cents more to add pockets in. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Pay the 50 cents.
Pockets are not that hard to put into stuff.
No, they're not.
That shouldn't be such a big fight.
No, and it was a fight because at the time they believed their market, and this is the problem, they don't know their market. And being a marketing person, I'm like, okay, you don't know your market.
That's why you should combine marketing and PR because most of PR is finding out what your market is.
Yep. And I've never ever put on a skirt and gone, oh no, pockets.
Yeah. Oh darn it. I don't want to pay $3 more for this skirt because it's got pockets. No way.
I will totally do that in a heartbeat. Oh my gosh.
They thought their market was like 15 to like 22-year-old. Like, they honestly thought it was boys buying it for their for their girlfriends if the boys were geeky. That's what they initially thought. They had changed, but had gotten there to be like, well, no, the girls are buying it too because the girls are also geeks. And I'm like, yeah, no duh. But
we can buy it ourselves. Like, it was when they were trying to market Deadpool, and they were like jokingly, but mostly marketing it, trying to make it seem like more of a love story than it was. And I was like, but we're already here. You don't have to market it to me.
Yeah, I don't need a love story with Deadpool. I mean, you can do that, I guess, but
I just loved how Ryan Reynolds swung that. The guys, if your girlfriend doesn't want to come,
yes.
You use this trailer.
Yes.
But I know you girls are gonna go anyway a lot of the time.
Because I'm Ryan Reynolds and you're going to want to see me.
And Deadpool, so...
I don't know. I also think it might just be some, like, leftover sexism of, oh, well, guys are buying it for their girls. Girls don't buy nerdy stuff. I'm like, don't look around my house.
That's still super rampant in the fashion world, even though they like to say it's not. It is.
I think it's rampant in any geeky thing. I mean, you got the comic books and the movies and all of that stuff, like marketing largely towards men.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately going to be that way for a while, which is why I'm fighting tooth and nail to, like, at least keep, like, when I have guys messaging me, like, why don't you do menswear? And I'm like, why don't you F off? Like, I turn into Angelica. I'm like, I'm not here for you. Like, I am not here for you. There are companies that every other company tailors to you, even though you get mad because it's only t-shirts. Like, okay, but also because guys don't pay for more things than that. So what do you want from me? Like, and I get super, like, crazy about it. Cause, like, I have guys like, why don't you do more hoodies? Why don't you do more unisex hoodies? Why don't you do hoodies that are like her universe prices? And I'm like, because I'm not mass producing in China with Hot Topic. Like, I'm not making 50,000 units for $5 a piece. So suck it. Like,
well, I love how your sweaters are androgynous.
Yeah, I mean, anyone can wear a sweater. Like, and the sweater, like, I did a more unisex version recently because I had a bunch of dudes for the Potter inspired ones that were like, well, isn't this for men? And I'm like, well, first of all, there's nothing that says you can't wear it. Like, there's no one saying you can't wear it. Yes, it has a bit of a wider neck. Yes, it has a high-low hem, but who cares? Like, if you really like it.
I'm in the 501st, so I have a stormtrooper outfit that I wear for troops and stuff, and it's a feminine one. It's from the comic books, so it's like it's made for a girl. And I kept referring to it as the girl one, and then I kept referring to the other one as the unisex one, and people kept going like, "What unisex one are you talking about?" I'm like, "That one."
The one without boobs.
Yeah, the one
that anyone could fit in.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, oh, the guy one. I'm like, in what world is that one specifically for dudes? Or my other favorite is when guys on forums would be like, oh, I really want to do Captain Phasma, but that's for women. I'm like, why? Just do it. No one's telling you you can't.
Yeah, no.
She's not wearing a mini skirt and like the booby armor that you see in like every science fiction thing ever.
No, she's just
Right.
got a slightly altered breastplate.
Yeah, it's like, go for it, man.
So easy to alter it back if that's something that makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, so silly. But no, I had a question about that, about producing your stuff in America. I super appreciate that, and I try my darndest to buy only American-made stuff, but that's so hard anymore.
It's really hard. And it's hard also because like everything, like you can't research every single thing you buy. Like
No.
it's actually impossible.
Absolutely not. No, that's insane. But I try my hardest. It's the reason I don't shop at Forever 21 or H&M, because, you know, odds are that person didn't get paid a day's wage to make that. And is that a problem you run into making your products other than people complaining about it, I guess?
Thankfully I don't get that many complaints about the price. I released my Lafayette dress yesterday, and it's a lot more expensive than my blue coat dress was. It's beautiful. It's a lot more expensive because the fabric's more expensive, because for some reason getting that purple was just a nightmare to find a decent price on it. And then the labor like doubled in price. Partially because the first place, like when I had the blue coat dress made, it was for a new factory that I hadn't worked with before, and they were kind of trying to like tempt me to work with them. And so they gave me a really, really low labor price. And when they gave me the price, I was like, that's insane, but screw it. Like, you're giving me a good price, so I'm going to pay it. And it ended up being a whole, like, I was shot in the foot with it because they messed up half the production, and it was a nightmare. And so this new factory I'm working with doesn't want to like lure me in. They keep showing me like, they're like, we actually make good stuff the first time, so you're going to pay more. And so I'm paying a lot more in labor. But all that means is that my dress is more expensive, which, because I believe my customers value quality over quantity, and they value my quality in particular, I'm not too worried about my price going up, because I feel like my customers are more educated than like the general populace that shop at like just at Forever 21, who just want a $10 shirt. Because my customers tend to be like adult women. I feel like they're smart enough to understand that like I'm not trying to like steal money from them. It's that all of this costs a ton of money, and I have to pay the people that need it. Like everything's made in California, everything's made in Los Angeles. The minimum wage went up this year to, I want to say $10.50, and next year it's going to go up to $11.50 until finally it makes up to $15. And I was talking to my factory yesterday about Lafayette, because they were trying to like apologize for the price being so high. And they're like, well, the thing is, we have a minimum wage we have to pay, and we have to bring in people for 8 hours, and we have to do these things now because it's state law. And I'm like, that's totally fine. I am 100% fine with paying more money to make sure that everyone that's making this garment is making a living wage. Like, which even that $10.50 is not a living wage. Like, you can't support yourself, not in Los Angeles, on that.
Oh, and you can't in Alaska either. The cost of living here is so insanely high. I think you have to work, I think someone did the math, it was like 58 hours a week minimum wage just to pay for a studio apartment. That doesn't include like food or heat to keep yourself from freezing in, the winter. So like when people are like, oh, it's a living wage, they're like, hell no, it ain't.
No, it's totally ridiculous. But I am 100% fine with paying more money if it means that other people are getting paid more and getting paid properly. And in the fashion world, at least in LA, up until this past year, until New Year, you got paid per piece. And so if you were a fast sewer, you could make plenty of money because you were getting paid. It's something ridiculous. It's like it'd be like, 2 cents or $2 a garment. And so it's like, but if you can sew that up really quickly, which you can if it's the same thing over and over again, you can walk out the door every hour with like, $15 an hour. But that's not really a way to maintain a living. Like, you shouldn't have to always sew quickly. And for more complex garments, it makes people nervous to sew it. Because like, well, I'm paying per piece opposed to paying by the hour. Anyways, it's a whole economics thing. But my factory apologized to me yesterday, and I was like, that's ridiculous. Don't apologize to me. I would rather know that your people are getting paid properly than I'm taking further advantage of people that can be taken advantage of. Because a lot of the time, especially in like factories here in LA, you're talking about people that may not be documented, and they need to make a living because they need to pay for their kids that probably are legal citizens, or pay for family back home that's being taken advantage of by cartels. Like, they need to make a living as well. And I don't want to possibly do that, like knowingly taking advantage of them. And especially in like China, there's no labor laws. You get paid like pennies. So I would definitely not want to import stuff knowing that.
Oh, and the factories are, even the factories they show people are sketchy.
Still,
we were in a silk factory where they made silk garments when I was in China. And I was like, they're actually showing people this? Because, like, if you did that in the United States, this place would get shut down.
Yeah. And a lot of licensing companies, Disney has a couple laws that if you're going to import stuff, the factory has to comply to certain standards and rules. But
even those are the bare minimum.
Right. But what's not funny, but what's sad about it is you'll have one factory that complies by those rules, and then they'll subcontract out all the actual work. And so Disney's reps will come in and check this factory out and be like, oh yeah, this is the minimum requirements. That's totally fine. Okay, this one's signed off. But then that factory actually sends the work to the sub factories that actually don't comply by any laws. And so it's kind of like they do their own like licensing where it's like, okay, if you want to have this compliance, you can say it's done through us, but you pay us the money to do it. It's just ridiculous. So like
that is
so like he's trying to maintain these standards, but it's so not happening. Like and what's sad is everyone in the industry knows that. Like it was a running joke of just like, oh yeah, whatever. Like we don't have to have compliance because all we're gonna do is go through this other factory, and in reality, it's not gonna happen. And so it's just sad. Like it's just sad. So having seen like how the sausage is made, when I struck out on my own, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to make sausage that way, because I'm not going to make clothing that way, because it's just abhorrent. Like the fashion industry is already a very like destructive industry on this environment and on economics and everything, that I'm like, I'm just going to do it locally. It's also a lot easier to get stuff done locally than it is to like import, because if you have to import something, it's going to cost, like you have to do a lot higher minimums. So I can do like 50 dresses and it's fine, but import it has to be like 600 or 300. So I'm just like, yeah, I can't justify ordering 300 dresses, even if they are 3 times cheaper. It's just not worth it to me. And then also they can change quality on you very easily. China does it all the time, where like they'll say it's going to be a certain fabric, but then in production they make it out of a cheaper fabric, because what are you going to do? You can't return it. It's already in your hands in the States.
Yeah, exactly.
And getting stuff through the port is a nightmare. And so just all this stuff that I'm just like, yeah, I'd rather just bypass all that and just get it made here and pay more for it. But
and there's so much going on in LA right now as far as production of just everything. I mean, I was telling my husband last month, I bought some things online, just things we use around the house, like coffee and sponges. And I was like, all of these things came from someone made in Los Angeles in the last month.
That's so awesome.
It's just really, really cool to see that. I lived in LA for a very small amount of time and ran out of money so fast, but I loved it.
It is an expensive city. That is 100% true. I'm super lucky that I work with people that I work with, because there's a ton of factories in Los Angeles, and people don't even realize that they're factories. They're just like really old buildings or, really cool places that happen to also have factories in them for people working.
I just assume all old buildings there are storage for movies.
Yeah, that's
typically that's a pretty common thing there.
Yep, it is. But yeah, I'm super, super lucky. And it makes me feel really good knowing that as I write my checks out to pay for things, that $4,000 is going to my fabric guy that lives, he lives down the street from my old apartment on the west side. And he's a really awesome dude. And he just made that money. That makes me happy. And the couple $1,000 to my factory, yes, that's my down payment for these dresses. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's staying here. And then with our current president's rise to power, his whole thing of Make America Great. I'm like, that doesn't, I've been doing this. You can make a choice as a company to make it here or make it elsewhere. I'm making it here to maintain my quality more so than anything. Cause I would get so mad when I would have production come in that was import at Mighty Fine, and the fabric was completely changed. And I would just be like, what are you doing? This is not what I ordered. This is not the quality that I wanted.
That would be so frustrating.
It's infuriating, because as a designer, I feel very strongly about my design, because it's my design.
Yeah, and it represents you.
Yeah, it's how I define myself. And so when it's bad as a design because of the fabrics, and I'm very tactically oriented. I love to touch things, and when I'm shopping for fabric, I touch everything. So I'm just like, ooh, let me feel what this feels like. So for me,
we're kindred spirits. We had a costume display thingy at the art museum at the university my husband and I went to. And I was like, you have to hold my hand this entire time we're through this. Otherwise, I'm going to be touching this display.
Oh my gosh. It is so hard for me to go to like costume exhibits because all I want to do is touch everything. Because I really like
feel it. Just let me touch it, ma'am.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. Yeah, I had one hand firmly grasping the our diaper bag and one hand squeezing my husband's hand, and we walked through it, and I just like white knuckled everything. It was so hard not to be like, oh, how was this made?
Oh my gosh. I always want to turn things inside out too. Yeah. And see how they did it. Cause like I learn a lot of what I'm doing by seeing how other people do things. So I'm just like, oh, they did it that way. Oh, that's a really good idea. Like I do that way too. So, oh man, that's rough.
So I wanted to ask you about your Galactic Royalty collection that you just released like last weekend, was it?
Yeah. I think the final, not the final pieces, but like most of them are up now. They came up on Monday this week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so my question was, every Star Wars movie brings another iconic look or two, depending on what movie it is. Even like the prequels, even as the scripts may have not been the best, there's still some really amazing looks in there. And
Yep.
how is it, do you think those outfits that from like the original series, like A New Hope and all that, have managed to not get super dated and still are so relevant to us?
Trisha Bigar, who designed for the prequels, the costumes, is phenomenal. She did so much work. She traveled around the world, and I read the costume book that they made for her, like the costuming a galaxy, dressing a galaxy. Like she traveled around the world to get looks from every possible culture and like decade, like part of history. Like she worked really hard to make sure that she pulled from a variety of places. And since fashion is cyclical and like if fashion is theft. Like she basically made fashions from like, I feel like Nairobi was one of them in India and parts of China. And like she pulled from all these cultures. And so it makes it a global fashion trend. Like it's a global look. So I feel like even though some of the looks may not be the most easy to translate back into the fashion world for everyday clothing, they're still powerful. And so, so doing a Padme collection, I love I love the prequels because they came out when I was in 6th grade. They started when I was in 6th grade. And so like as a kid, I was like, these are amazing because I loved her costumes. And even now, like I don't care as much for the prequels because I've learned about things like story and character. And it lacks a lot of both, but her costumes are still the best. And like, they're the best part of it. They're the best costumes in any Star Wars, hands down. So, well, yeah, I'm like, the stormtroopers are a really cool look, but that's one look. So Padme's got the strongest look. And for me, translating it, it's basically like, what were my favorite costumes of hers and how can I make everyday versions of them? Because I want to be Padme all the time. Even
right?
though she has a horrible ending, but that's fine. Like,
I think it was on the Celebrations Facebook page. They've got a speed dating night, and it was a picture of Padme and Anakin. I was like, okay, but maybe that's not the best example of a happy marriage.
Yeah, those aren't like relationship goals you should have.
No. There's very few totally happy relationships in the Star Wars universe, but that's probably like real low on the list. So maybe we pick a different couple.
I mean, I feel like you could put like.
I'd rather have like Han and Leia, really.
I mean, I would have been fine with them doing Luke and Mara because I'm still part of the legacy and like EU, so they could have done that. Yeah, or Han and Leia, like or R2-D2 and C-3PO because they're really the power couple.
Totally, definitely are.
Oh my gosh, yes, I never thought about that. That's so true.
But then it's Star Wars making a gay relationship, which we don't know if Disney would allow. So, or like Poe and Finn, that would have been the best.
Just give me space husbands. That's all I want. Okay, different topic.
Going off of designing off of a franchise that seems to be so timeless, I was really impressed by how many different franchises you design for, and I was wondering what your favorite area to design in. Is it like the more sci-fi area or superheroes, or is it like, are you really liking the Hamilton and want to do more Broadway type inspired garments?
It's hard to say what's my favorite because I'm just a huge nerd. Like I'm a huge fan of everything, and so and not of everything. Like I haven't done anything for Doctor Who because I'm not a Whovian, and so I don't really want to touch that because don't care for it. So I'm just like, if I don't like it, it's not worth it to me to spend time doing it. But it's just, I'm a big nerd. And so I basically am like, what do I want to wear when I go to like the Disney parks or to Potter World or to a different convention? Like what, and like Hamilton was because I wanted to go to see Hamilton, and I was like, I want to wear something while I'm there. Might as well design a collection around it because I love all these looks so much. And
Did you get to see Hamilton?
Yeah, I saw it right.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I saw it like a week before he left. Like he announced he was leaving, and I called my mom and I was like, we have to go right now because you said you'd buy me tickets for Hamilton for my birthday, and my birthday was like 2 months ago and you didn't buy those tickets, and now you're screwed because he's leaving and I want to see it with him. I explained it to her and she does not get the reference, but I was like, Mom, I wanted to see it before. I wanted to see Wicked before Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth left. I didn't because we don't live in New York, and you weren't going to do that because I was like 14 years old. But now I'm an adult and I understand how to get to New York, and I'm gonna go do it myself if you don't want to join me. And she was like, oh, fine, like I'll pay for your birthday gift. So it became like a whole thing. But I had wanted to see it, and I also really I wanted like Senpai's approval. I wanted Lynn to see this collection and be like, oh my God, what a crazy fan. Which I know he's seen it, but he's never responded publicly. So I'm like, I don't know what he really thinks about it, but I do know that the costume people that work backstage have all seen it and love it. And a couple of them have bought some of my stuff. So I'm just like, okay, cool.
What? Oh, that's awesome.
That's like the seal of approval right there.
That's so close. Close enough.
Like, I know it's good. Like, and he retweeted, one of my friends who also knows him wore the blue coat dress in a video that she made. And he retweeted that and he was like, oh my God, how cool. And I'm like, okay, he's probably commenting on her song, but also her look. Okay, we're good. We got this.
No, we're also big fans in my house. I think it was Stephanie knows about this. We got a new cactus yesterday, and my husband named it Tin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Isn't that the best?
Oh my God. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about him and they're like, I met Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh my God.
Dancing a funky, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
oh my God, you have to stop.
But no, so I saw Hamilton. Like, I design stuff for things that I'm passionate about. I happen to be passionate about a lot of different fandoms because I love Marvel. The funny thing is, X-Men's my favorite, and I haven't touched X-Men yet. But I have ideas.
That's funny, because that was I was telling my husband the questions when I was telling Jeremiah. I told him about the first question I asked, and he was like, oh yeah, like Cyclops, like he's got 4 different outfits. So
Cyclops has like 50 different outfits.
Well, we were going through 4 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Like
no,
the 4 like most well-known ones.
Yeah, like I have Rogue ideas. I have Wolverine. I have ideas for X-Men. It's a matter.
That Rogue dress was really cool. I mean, I know you didn't like mass make that, but it was such a cool dress.
Yeah, no, that one definitely got a good response too. People were like, I want to order that. I'm like, oh, this fabric was limited, so no.
I'm trying to clean my sewing room.
I'm trying to get rid of
Which has to be the best reason to like make things. It's like, I need to clean up. Who wants to order things?
Yeah, no, it's definitely like a good, like, especially because people like are starting to understand like, oh, her stuff's like super limited. Like when she says limited, she means limited. So it's nice for them to get it. Cause I had somebody come back for one of the Rainbow Clouds things. And they were like, oh, I want to get that maxi. And I was like, oh no, it's sold out. Like
that's why I jumped on that the second I saw it.
Yeah. I'm like, no, that was gone because I only had 40 yards, so I could only make like 10 things max. So super sorry. Yeah, and I get like I kind of like get dead inside when people do that of like I want to get it now, and I'm like, well, it's gone. Oh, I'm really sad. I'm like, I'd be really sorry for you, but I don't think you understood what limited meant. You thought that I was just like trying to get you to buy it, and I wasn't. I legitimately know
this wasn't a sales tactic. It's actually gone.
It's actually long gone, and
because there is a clothing line right now that's been very popular, at least in my area, that they use that exactly as a marketing technique, and it drives me insane because I know it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, like the Lafayette dress, it's a closeout fabric, and I bought up 150 yards because I was like, well, that's about like. I think that's going to be around like 60 dresses, and there's an option for me to buy like another 50 yards, which is another like, 10, 15 dresses. But that's the most, that's it. This color is discontinued. Like I could certainly do Lafayette in like a navy color, but that's not the same.
No, His outfit's purple.
Yeah, it's purple. So I'm just like, yeah, no. And so I went to like every fabric company that I possibly could to find this fabric, and I found one. So it's very limited. And like, I could certainly change it, but I'm like, but I don't want to, because I like it like this. So I do not use it lightly. When I say limited, for a lot of stuff it is. For my sweaters, I can always do another run normally, but to do another run means I have to sell another 50 pieces. And I'm like, I don't know if I like, when I did like an Argyle cardigan that are Potter colors, and the blue and brown one sold out very quickly. And I've gotten a billion requests. Like, are you gonna do more of that one? And I'm like, well, I've gotten so many requests that maybe I will, because there's a lot of interest on it. But also I did another round of my Ray sweater, and the second round, she didn't really move too much. And so I'm like, well, it's not worth it to me to sit on 50 sweaters, like just to sell 2. Like,
right. Exactly.
So I have to be smart about it. Cause also my storage space is getting really packed. I'm going to have to at some point buy more space, and I don't want to, cause I want to keep my prices down, and I want to be able to keep it, affordable for people. But if I have to start getting higher overhead, then I have to charge more for every garment. So it's just like, if I could just not have as much stock, that'd be perfect.
Well, then you'd have more room for chickens.
Exactly. And I already have 6. I could definitely do like another 6, because they're not super loud or messy or annoying. They're really cute, but they're really annoying because when I first started following you on Instagram, I was working somewhere else, and I was just like messing around on a break, and I was like looking at all your designs, and I was like, okay, her Instagram is all these really amazing designs, but her stories are always her chickens, and that is the best thing. I try every now and then to do something else. Like, I'll do like a sample sale in my stories, or I'll try to post, like if I'm actively working on something, like I'll post updates in the stories. But I'm like, everyone keeps asking, like, when are you going to post more videos of chickens? So I'm like, I get it. Yeah. And at conventions, people come to me like, oh my God, I love your chicken videos. And I'm like, that's awesome. If you love my designs and my chickens, I'm good. Like, I do not need anything else in life. Like, I don't need videos of myself. Like, I was at Disney a few weeks ago, and I had a girl stop me in line because I was wearing one of my dresses, because I'm an attention whore. I want to wear my own stuff because it's comfortable. And she was really quiet. And she's like, I was wearing a Ravenclaw dress, and she was like, I have a Ravenclaw keychain. And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. That's so cool. And then we met back up in line, because of the serpentine line. And she was like, pulled on my sleeve again. She's like, do you have an Etsy store? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I knew it. Can I get a picture with you? And I was like, yeah. And her grandpa reached out to me a few days later, and he was like, you made my daughter's day. Like, she didn't want to ask you outright. She idolizes you. And like, if you're ever in Pasadena. And I was like, I live just down the street from Pasadena. Why don't you guys come over and like have like a shopping day? She can come over and try everything on. And he was like, oh my gosh, she would die. And so they just met up with me this morning. Like, they came over and did a whole thing.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It was awesome. And like stuff like that. Like I was telling him in the emails, I'm like, I'm shocked she recognized me, because I don't really advertise my face. I advertise my product. It means the world to me that she did. But I'm like, honestly, I'm super shocked and happy that she recognized my product. And that's what I want to be known for. I don't want to be known, like, if people don't recognize me, that's awesome. Because like, I don't want to have to be stopped every time I go to conventions, but I don't mind being stopped. But it's just like, I'm like, for me, it's my designs. It's my work.
So if you stop, so people say you are wearing something awesome, you'd rather have that than, hey, I know who you are. Yeah.
And I had when I was that same Disney trip, the first place we went to see the Frozen show, because I hadn't seen it yet. And walking in, one of the cast members, she was like, oh my gosh, is that an Elhoffer design? And I was like, yeah. And she like gave me like the up and down. She's like, wait, are you Elhoffer? And I was like, yes, I am. And like that's like, that means the world to me. Cause like the fact that she recognized my work is the coolest thing on this planet. And then to them be like, oh wait, are you actually her? And I'm like, yes, I am. Like, that's like, yeah, for me, my work is my most important thing. And like, cause looks change. Like, it doesn't matter what I look like. Cause like, I could change my hair to all blue or age 10 years. I don't know. But my product, I want my product to speak for itself, which is what
if you're willing to wear your product like proudly, you clearly, like I said, you care about it, and you care about your customers, and you're wearing it and showing like, this is comfortable. And I do actually wear my stuff. I mean, I did the chicken video this morning. You were wearing your dual sweater. Like, you actually wear your stuff.
Because I'm cold, and I'm like, well, this sweater is really warm, so I'm gonna wear it. Like, I don't always wear my stuff. Like, when I'm working around my house, I'm not always wearing my sweaters, because like, I don't want to damage them. I don't want to use them too much. But I also really love my stuff, and I don't make this unless I would also wear it. Like, I don't like designing stuff that I wouldn't wear because, you know, that's also free advertising if I go to Disney and wear my stuff. And if people stop me, they're like, oh my gosh, where'd you get that? Oh, it's on my website. Just take a picture of the tag on the back, because that's where you can go to get one of your own. So it's good advertising, but it's also, yeah, it's super crucial that I actually like it, because if I don't like it, I don't want to have to sell it. I don't want to make other people buy it if I don't like it myself.
So when you're designing, do you take into consideration that a lot of different body types will be wearing your stuff when you design something, or do you just do like whatever you feel like?
No, I design for me. So I won't make stuff that I can't wear, with the exception of like my handmade stuff. Like I just made yesterday a bunch of crop tops. I generally don't wear crop tops. I will if I'm wearing one of my high-waisted skirts, but in general, that's not my look. But I'm just trying to get rid of fabric right now, and it's not like it's mass-produced. But my mass-produced stuff, I don't think I've ever made anything that I wouldn't also wear and that wouldn't flatter my body type, because I want to look good, which is crazy. And so my fit model is her name's Sarah. Her online name is Sarah Snitch. She's like my solid medium, and she's really kind of like a Marge. Like, she's definitely like she's super curvy. She's got boobs, she's got hips. She's amazing. But in my mind, if she's my medium, that means that as I go up to bigger sizes, I'm already accounting for boobs and hips. Mm-hmm. And I don't need to worry about doing a different pattern for plus sizes, because they're going to fit, because I already accounted for that in my medium. And I normally have my factories make me an extra large as the first thing they sew, and then I put that on, because I tend to be my extra large size. Although I'm kind of like, I don't think I've been losing weight, but I guess I've been working out a lot, so maybe I have been. So like, I'm kind of now in like the ambiguous large to extra large, where it's like, ish, it works. But that's my big judge, is like, if it fits me and if it fits her, then it's going to fit most people. And like, it's impossible to accommodate every single size and shape.
Oh, of course.
But also because my stuff has so much stretch in it, I'll get comments I'll get messages from people, because I'm always quick to respond when people are like, I'm not exactly sure what size to get. Here's my measurements. I'm like, okay, you're probably going to be, you know, my extra large or my 3X or whatever. And so I'll get girls like, my bicep is this, but my chest is this. And I'm like, well, you might need to get that tailored, because you seem to have like life. Yeah, you have skinny arms, but a big boob, but big boobs. So if you want it to be loose in your arms, you're fine. If you want it to be skin tight, you know, then you're going to get it tailored. It's unfortunately the way that mass production works. But it also means you're going to get a great looking garment if you get it tailored. And the tailoring is a lost art. People don't like to get it done. And I've had customers who are like, I've already spent so much on a dress, I don't want to spend more money getting it tailored. But I'm like, I totally understand. Then buy a sewing machine and do it yourself. But if you want it to look good.
Not only that, but like when people look at pictures from people from the 50s and the 40s, and they're like, oh, everything looks so good. I'm like, that's because it was tailored to them.
Tailored to them. That's why.
Most of them could tailor it themselves.
Oh, yeah, they could either do it themselves or someone would do it for them. Like, that's why everyone fit everything. That's why you'll get a vintage skirt or vintage dress that like totally won't zip up around your chest, but totally fits your hips. And they're like, well, somebody else had a different size than you, and it was made for them.
Yep. And so that's all. It's so frustrating, because since I know how to sew as well, I'm like, well, I can fix that for you if you want to pay me to, but I'm not just going to like alter a garment just because, you know, you're not the same size as the fit person. That's going to happen. Like, no. And when I made the maxi dresses, the wrap dresses, I had so many people that are like, well, I'm like 6 foot tall. Like, that won't fit me. And I'm like, well, it'll be a little bit short on you, but is that the end of the world? Like, it's still going to be a beautiful dress. Like, or you could hem it to be a neat dress.
I feel like if you're that tall, then you just have to get used to your ankles showing.
Yeah. I'm like, you're 6 foot tall. That's really tall. I'm like, then isn't the average like 5'8", like, or 5'6"? Like,
yeah, I think
5'6".
I think 5'6". Yeah, because I'm the national average on like everything anymore, on like height, weight, shoe size. So there's never clothes in my size.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because it's all sold out.
Well, yeah, because they order the same amount for every size, and by the time I get there, it's all extra smalls and larges, and I'm like, I can't fit any of this. Like, I need a medium, or I don't know. It depends. I guess it really depends on what store you're at. Yeah, I've had it with vanity sizing though. Holy crap! Oh
my God, I hate vanity sizing. I'm afraid that I'm turning into that. I don't think I am, because it's all, you know, a coin toss anyways, of like, well, yeah, Sarah's my medium, if that's what we want to say what medium is. Like, I don't know, but it's crazy. And because I'm so self-taught in this, like, I kind of just make it up as I go, of like, well, this is how I'm going to do this thing, this is how my sizes are going to fit, because I don't know, it seems to be working out, and I don't want to change things. too much. When I started on my own, I wanted to do like, instead of small, medium, large, or like 2, 4, 6, 8, I wanted to be like, this is my pixie size. This is my diva size. This is my queen. Like I wanted to be like just completely obligatory, whatever I wanted it to be things. But I was like, that's too crazy. I can't change the industry like that. Like I'd rather just
one step at a time.
Yeah.
It's hard enough the companies that sell women's pants using your hip inches, which shouldn't be that ridiculous because that's how men's are sized. But it's like you go into a store and it's like, well, I didn't measure myself this morning, but I know I'm usually a 14. So what does that mean here?
Oh, I hate how H&M does it by waist, because like for the longest time I had a 32-inch waist, and so I'd go in and get their 32s, but it's really the hip size, and I'm like, what are you talking about? No one who has a 32-inch hip, like who does that? Like 32-inch, and that's like the largest size they carry. I'm like, a 32-inch hip is like maybe a medium. Like I don't even know medium girls that they normally have like 36 to 38-inch hips. So I'm just like,
I was a medium for a very long time, and 32 is like, I don't know, like halfway between my waist and my hips.
Yeah, it's your lower waist.
Yeah.
It
was like my drop waist would be a 32, but if I'm getting something for my hips, that was like,
I'm so short-waisted though that even like drop waist stuff is like mom jeans on me.
Oh yeah.
Short. I've got wide hips, totally flat chest, and like no waist at all. It's just like, whoop, I'm like, well, this is fun.
My waist is directly under my boobs.
Exactly.
That's how mine is too. When I was in a sewing class and we did dresses for ourselves and we were doing all the measurements from your standard to make it exactly for you, I am missing 7 inches between my shoulders and my hips for your standard pattern.
What? Where are they finding these people?
How? What?
Like, I don't know. Like, from my waist to my hips is just so small. Like, it was ridiculous.
Like, I want to know who these people they're measuring are. Like, are these people high elves? Like, where are they finding them?
Probably.
And I do know a lady who's pretty tall, and she's one of those people who doesn't want her ankles showing when she wears a gown or skirt, so she appreciates it. But for the rest of us Hobbit folk, we need we need sizes for us. Speaking of the Hobbit, is there any current fandom you're all about right now? Other than Hamilton, clearly?
I was like, besides Hamilton, which I'm cooling a bit on Hamilton. I used to listen to the soundtrack every single day, and I don't think I've listened to it in like 2 weeks now. So I'm like, oh God, am I dying? Like, what is this? I have been listening to the mixtape instead, but it still feels weird. So Hamilton, it seems like I'm hardcore into Star Wars, but I actually haven't been hardcore into Star Wars for a couple of years now. Only because changing the EU around or whatever really broke my heart, and they haven't really replaced it with characters that I love more than I love the EU characters. It's like no one will ever compare to Jaina Solo in my mind. So like not even Ahsoka. I'm like, nope, you're no Jaina Solo. Like back off. So I get angry about stuff with Star Wars, but I still do Star Wars designs because Star Wars fans are crazy insane. And I still love the designs. Like I still love the designs that Padme has, and I still love the looks. But I'm not as hard of a Star Wars fan as I used to be. I still adore Trek. I haven't rewatched Star Trek in a while, though. I need to. I'm really obsessed right now with Outlander, but I haven't done the Outlander looks yet.
Oh my god, I would die.
I want to really bad. Like
I've got to do this for me.
Yeah. No, I got an email from some random person like a month ago, and they were just like, "Have you ever thought about doing Outlander stuff?" And I'm like, "Yes, I have a billion ideas. I have a billion ideas for every fandom. Like I haven't even touched half of the Star Wars designs that I have because I can only do so much in a day, and I can only do so much on my site. Like I can't store 5,000 things in my house. Like that can't happen."
That's fair. Outlander would be so good. I was one of those people who read the book way before the TV show happened, and now I'm just like, everything is so good.
You're amazing. I still need to read the books. And now that we're on like hiatus or Droughtlander, I'm like, well, I'm going to go through and read all the books now. So I need to download them to my Kindle and then read them like crazy. Cause I love this story. So I really want to do Outlander, and I have a friend that has connections with their licensing team. So I kind of want to maybe see if I could get the license first. That's kind of how I do most of my stuff, is like, I want to see, like for Star Trek, I was in talks with them to get a license, and then they like backed out. They're like, oh, our licensors are going to step up their fashion game. And then the Her Universe collection came out, and I was like, well, that's not really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and do what I wanted to do, because
agreed.
That's all juniors and looks horrible.
So what's the difference of working with something with a license or without a license? What would be the difference in that?
So with a license, you can say, like, I can say Star Trek, I can say Enterprise, I can say Captain Picard. I can use their names. I also can use their insignias and their IP. So their legal property, which is the Delta Shield, like the little triangular thing, their comm patch. I can use like the Enterprise silhouette or outline and images, or I can use their intellectual property. I can access that. I don't have Star Trek. So my Interstellar collection, it's not a Star Trek collection, it's an Interstellar collection, doesn't have the Delta Shield on it. It's just the black shoulders and a blue body. And it has pointed shoulders because the strong pointed shoulder is a classic in sci-fi costume design, but it's not exactly the costumes. And so it's like...
So it's more like inspired by stuff.
Yes. But there's no legal grounds. If I say it's Star Trek inspired, Star Trek can still sue me or send me a cease and desist. They definitely can still like come after me if I say inspired by. I have to go with a completely different name.
Okay.
In order to
galactic bromance, like we know what that is, but not so much that you're going to get a cease and desist.
Yeah. And so I thankfully have not gotten any cease and desists yet. And I worked really closely when I was at Mighty Fine with the licensing team. So I have a good idea of what is and is not infringing. And I also have a bunch of friends that are still in licensing or in, the legal side of intellectual property. And so I definitely throw a lot of stuff by them being like, hey, is this safe? And I've gotten one kickback of like, that's a little iffy. And so I didn't do that thing because I didn't want to. If it's iffy, I don't want to do it. It's only when it's like very clear, like, yep, that's
probably can't. Well, you can't afford iffy. I mean, doing what is essentially a one-woman operation where you're financing this all on your own. You can't afford to like put $4,000 down on an order and then get a letter saying you can't sell this.
Exactly. And so if it's iffy, it's not worth it. And I don't want to have any bad blood. Like, I love Star Trek, and I was super upset when they said no, but I also am not going to wait on them to figure out that their customers are not that way. Like, I explained to them, I was like, your customer is a plus size customer, because all of my Trek friends, like of all my Trek friends, I want to say 5% of them are like skinny girls. The rest of them are heavier because we just are, because it's just the way it is. And so like your customers are not satisfied. Just that when I was at Mighty Fine, I noticed that now, like, your customers aren't satisfied. So like you should let me do stuff, because I'm going to make stuff for plus women that are going to look phenomenal and they're going to be blown away. And they're like, yeah, I sent them samples and they loved them, but they didn't go with me. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to wait around for you to figure out who your customers are, because I know where they are and I am one. So I'm gonna do it my way. And so I don't think there's any bad blood. I don't think they're going around like, cursing my name, but they also have to know that like I'm not gonna wait on them. I'm not gonna wait for anyone. Like if I go to Outlander and I talk to them and then they're like, oh, we're gonna go in a different direction. Fine, you can go in a different direction. I'm still gonna release stuff. I won't say it's Outlander, but it's definitely gonna be Highland inspired. And like, there's nothing infringing on Highlander culture. Like, oh
yeah, you can't infringe on Celtic culture.
Right. I'm like, it's certainly cultural appropriation, but thank God I'm Scotch Irish. Like, it's not appropriation for me. And like, I really wanted to do one of the iffy things that I never even sketched out, but I talked to a friend about it who's in IP. I was like, I really want to do Maui's tattoos from Moana as a giant poncho, because I think it'd be beautiful. And I said immediately, like, but I'm pretty sure that's cultural appropriation. And if I think it is, and I'm a white girl, then I'm pretty sure it is. And I'm pretty sure I shouldn't do it. And she was like, yeah. And she was East Polynesian, what is that, Pacific Islander. And she was like, I would make sure that it was done right. But also, yes, that would be a problem. Yeah.
Well, even Disney, the people who made it, they got a big kickback on that kids costume of Maui.
Yeah.
So, like, even if the people who made it get a kickback, someone else sure as heck is going to get it too.
Yeah. And I don't want to have I don't want to ever have that kind of connotation. And I want to try to avoid as many scandals as possible. So
yeah, it's best that, not all good news, not all news is good news. That's the truth.
Right. And so just not going to do that. But yeah, so there's so many things I do. I really want to do Outlander stuff though, because I just finished listening to a podcast. I was fully caught up on this podcast I was listening to about Outlander, and like it just reminded me that I need to go back and rewatch it first of all, but also just start sketching up stuff, because I let things sit in my brain for a while and like mull it over and figure out what I really want to do. And so I'm to the point now where I'm like, okay, I've been sitting on it for a while. I gotta freaking draw it up. Like I gotta draw it and figure out what I want to do, and then do even more stuff. So I'm hoping I can chat with them and at least talk. It's once you have a license though, it's a whole long process. Like if I would need to get a lawyer involved to look at contracts, because of course they try to like make sure that they always get the best end of the deal. And I'm in that right now with a company with a license. So it's like, I don't know, we'll see. It's a whole long process of getting approvals and everything. The way that I work right now, once I get a sample, I upload it to my website within like 24 hours and I have it for sale. And with a license, you can't do that. You need to send it to them first. They need to give you approval. They need to give you art concept approval. They need to give you production approval. They need to give you sample approval. And it's so much work and so much money. And then a lot of licenses require you to also give them like 30 samples just for them to have. And I'm like, I don't want to give you 30 samples and I'm only producing 50 things. Like, that's not cost effective. So there's a whole lot of negotiation that has to happen for them to understand that, like, I'm a very small company and I cannot afford that. And a lot of it is a barrier to entry. Like, they want to make sure that you're a viable company and not going to go under with like the first production run. So they make you give a lot of requirements to make sure that you're not, going to die. But I don't have that. I'm not playing that game because I've done a ton of stuff already. I'm a little over a year old. So I'm not going under because I'm not going to.
It's not your first rodeo, so to speak.
Yeah. So,
okay, so we should probably wrap this up soon because I know you have to go. But real quick, what's next for you in Elhoffer Designs beyond Outlander, which I so hope you do?
I'm working right now on a Disney inspired collection. And so I'm doing like a sidekicks look that I'm really, really excited about. And waiting on samples for those. I'm working with a comic company on doing a collection for them for one of their comics as well, which would be licensed, which is really cool and really terrifying. I'm trying to, I have plans for the next few months already of samples that are going to happen. And then like if Lafayette sells out, I'll probably do the green A. Ham dress, which was another really popular dress from the Hamilton collection. Like I'm kind of doing them piece by piece because they're so expensive to do that I need to do one at a time. Mostly to give my customers time to replenish their paychecks to pay for the next.
Well, I appreciate that. Gosh.
Because I was telling my husband last night, he's like, why didn't you drop them all at once? And I was like, because if I dropped every dress in the collection all at once and they're all like $200, my customers would hate me because they can't buy all that.
Right. We'd have to pick and choose.
Right, which is not fair because you want everything because they're all awesome. So, so I'm more Hamilton stuff still. Like that's kind of like a constant. Like as I sell out, I work on the next thing. I'm also doing. I haven't released it to my site yet, but I'm gonna do the dual sweater that I did. I'm doing it as a cardigan as well. With
cute.
With just the dual on the front of the cardigan with like the guns, muskets above and below it. So it's very stripped down, but it's super cute. And that way. Like it's also going to be a lot cheaper because it's not a front and back and sleeve knit of this crazy pattern. So I'm super excited for that. And it's just because like my samples are taking a lot longer to get from my factory. And so I'm just kind of placing orders on things that I know will sell. And that way that I'm going to get stock of it and then put the stock up so you can buy it immediately. So it's not like you have to wait 2 months for it to come in. And also it means that it's more production happening. So my factory doesn't stop and take other orders because I really want them to be just for me. So yeah, so I'm doing some of that stuff, but gosh, there's just a ton. I want to do more Zelda stuff too because I love Zelda. I definitely I'm still waiting on 2 more samples from the Padme collection or from the Galactic Royalty collection, the ombre styles because the factory finally has the ombre knit down, and so I should be getting them hopefully tomorrow or Monday at the latest.
Yeah, I remember you posted a sample that you were like, this is not good.
It's garbage. And
I didn't even know that was an ombre when you posted it.
It's not ombre because it's garbage. I like to be, this is the part of like, I'm open and honest. Like I'm open and honest with my customers. Like this is, cause I had a bunch of people bugging me like, when's it going to be up? And I'm like, it's not good. I'm not going to release something that's not good to you guys. I respect you more than that. Even though other companies don't, they release their garbage. I'm like, I don't, because it's my name. Literally my name is on each garment because my last name is Elhoffer. So like, if it has my name on it, I have to make sure it's up to my standards. And so, I'm like, it's going to take time. This is what they're giving me. This is not good. I have to go back in and sit. I've sat with them for hours now of like, this is what I want you to do. And then they knit it and they're like, and I'm like, that's not what I told you to do. What I told you to do was this. So we're kind of brainstorming and figuring out how to solve this, but it's going to happen. It's just time. And then I have people that are like, but I want it for a Star Wars Celebration. I'm like, I totally get that. And I want to get it to you by then. I don't know if I can, because it's just taking so long, but there's still 4 other pieces in the collection that I'm super proud of that would totally get to you in time for Celebration. So, and the way that I work with pre-orders, like I have to pre-order stuff because I have to make sure there's enough demand for a product because I can't finance everything all on my own all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's been great. Like Lafayette, I've already sold 20 dresses for Lafayette. So I believe Lafayette has paid for the production by now, I think, except for maybe the trims. So anyways.
I want that Lafayette so bad, but I also want the Shigo sweater more.
Oh my God, the Shigo sweater.
It's everything. I
want to do an entire Kim Possible collection so bad. Like, so bad. My husband makes fun of me. He's like, it's such an old cartoon. I'm like, no, it's the best cartoon.
But it was such a good cartoon, though. I had to sneak and watch it because we weren't supposed to. Long story. But I would sneak and watch it. I'm like, yeah, Kim Possible. This is so good.
I love KP. I have them all on my computer because I downloaded them like illegally ages ago because there's no DVDs of them. And like, I'll go through and just play it while I'm working. So I'm just like, I love Kim Possible. So yeah, I want to, like the Shigo sweater barely sold. So I probably won't do anything Kim Possible anytime soon, but I still really want to. That's
the line of designing for you and designing for people who are going to buy it.
Yes. I literally ran that. I told my factory, I was like, I'm ordering 50 of these because I have to, because I literally want one for myself. And so I'm fine paying $1,000 for a sweater. If it means I get me, that's fine.
I love it. Oh my gosh. That's fantastic.
I'm ridiculous. But it also to me shows like the fans that are just like me. They're like, oh my God, I love Kim Possible. Cool. They get it. They get that it's Shigo. And maybe they'll also buy it. Maybe they'll like it too. But I'm like, I love Kim Possible. Like I want it. And somebody was like, if you like Kim Possible, you should do like a Darkwing Duck collection. And I'm like, that's not the same thing. Like, they're like nostalgic cartoons, but I have no idea what I would do for Darkwing Duck. Because while I loved it at the time, I couldn't possibly quote you it at all. Like I can.
But I can say what's the sitch in 2 seconds.
So not the drama. Like. I love Possible. So yeah, so there's a million things coming. I'm also talking to one of my guys that does sublimation printing about possibly doing some sublimation print stuff. And so like which is just another thing to do. But yeah, so I'm always working.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. Where can people find you on Instagram and Twitter and all that? What are your handles?
I am at Elhoffer Design on everything. That's ELHOFFER Design everywhere. So Tumblr, Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, my website, my Etsy, which is mostly like my random one-off pieces. Yeah, all of it's Elhoffer Design. I kept it easy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Have a great evening with your husband.
Thank you so much.
This was a great interview. Thank you.